Welcome back to the Lions Den podcast presented by Center Dufferin District High School. I am one of your co-hosts, Nolan Ritchie, same as always, here with Aiden Doig. Aiden, how's it going in Honeywood?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Today we have on former Center Dufferin District High School student Laura Wagstaff. She is a University of Toronto student and has just recently started Project Play for All, which is an initiative to get sports equipment to those that can't afford it, which is fantastic. So we're going to put it to that interview now. On today's show, we have Laura Wagstaff. She is the founder of Project Play for All, a nonprofit started in Shelburne to get sporting equipment to families in need. Laura, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. We have a few questions for you. Starting off with your university, what's kind of like the process been like being 100% online for your first year?
Yeah, so there's definitely been some positive and negatives when it comes to online school. I'm lucky to go to a university that set up a pretty good online system, and I found the profs to be really engaging, and I have still been learning a lot. But it's been hard, especially in first year, not knowing anyone, especially for me, because I've been at home doing school. You know, when you go to class, it's kind of just 200 black screens. So it's kind of crazy to finish first year university without really having met anyone. So it is pretty weird, for sure.
Now,
Are you cool?
Say that again, Aiden. You kind of cut out.
Where are you attending school?
I am at the University of Toronto, downtown campus.
And you're in kinesiology, correct?
Yeah.
How come you decided on kinesiology? Is that just kind of something you've always been interested in, or?
Yeah, so I played sports all growing up inside and outside of school. In high school, I kind of focused on science courses, and then I took the kin course in grade 12 and really loved it, and kind of decided from there that that's something that I'd want to go study at university.
And do you have any idea kind of what you want to do with it as far as jobs after the fact?
So right now I'm planning on going into teaching. Kind of gym as being my main teachable, and I'm thinking about biology as the second one, so high school teaching.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So you just mentioned playing sports all through high school. Do you find this year you're losing out on some of the university experience?
Yeah, I definitely say so. You know, my favorite part of high school was things like athletic council, playing sports, getting to do all these extracurriculars. And so it has been hard, you know, just being at home, doing school, not being able to play sports or any of that. Yeah, it's definitely been challenging, and I definitely have felt like I have kind of missed out. But hopefully I'll be back next year and get to do some of that stuff in the fall.
Now,
what were the biggest sports that you would play in high school?
In high school, I played basketball, volleyball, and soccer all the way through.
Now, were you early on enough that you kind of got to do the open houses and stuff for universities before COVID hit?
Yeah, so when I was in grade 12 in the fall before COVID, I got to go down to campus twice and do tours and tour the faculty and the whole campus. And that was really great. I mean, that's the only time I've ever actually been to my school, but it was cool to go. So yeah, I guess you guys have kind of missed out on that.
Yeah.
How many schools did you go and see? Was it just Toronto or no?
Yeah, so I actually only went down to see Toronto. That was kind of the whole time the school I wanted to go to. So I was really happy when I got in because that's really the only one I considered.
For other students looking to go to Toronto, would you say it's a fairly good environment? Like it's a good area in the city, it's good facility?
The facilities are really, really amazing. I mean, U of T I think it's top school in Canada right now, and like the kin program is one of the top 5 in the world. I mean, I've only been a couple of times, but from what I've seen in my perspective, like it's a really great school, and the facilities are really awesome, and the profs are amazing.
For people like myself and Nolan who are graduating high school this year, would you recommend enrolling into university or college if it's going to be all online next year, or would you maybe take a period and a year off?
I think that that really depends on, your abilities when it comes to online school and how much you like it. I know that everyone learns differently. Um, I know that some people love online school and some people find it really challenging. And even me, I don't really mind online school, but I've still found it challenging at times. And so I think if you do have a hard time with being online, you might want to consider taking a gap year if you think you're really going to struggle, because it can get difficult. I know for me, I didn't really want to fall behind, so I wanted to go ahead with it and do online from home. Yeah, but I think it definitely depends on how you kind of feel about online school.
Now, switching gears a little bit, probably the biggest thing that has happened recently for you is you started Project Play for All, which is great.
Mhm.
Where'd kind of the inspiration come for that?
Yeah, so kind of like a sports equipment collection type of thing had always been in the back of my mind for a while. You see food drives, toy drives, that kind of thing a lot. But I'd never seen, sports equipment done before. And then this past semester in my sports and exercise psychology class, I started to research the youth sport crisis due to COVID, and I was writing a paper on it. And that wasn't really something that comes to mind when you think of the effects of COVID, really for me anyways. But writing this paper and learning about how many kids, have dropped out of sport and aren't getting physical activity because of COVID and school closures and not having access to equipment at home, just really struck a chord with me. I mean, growing up, I spent a lot of time playing sports, getting outside, and that's kind of how I got here now, studying kinesiology and physical education. So I think, yeah, that kind of it just bothered me a little bit, and I was like, I think there's something I can do about that.
Well, it's great that you're doing something about it. It's amazing.
How did you go by setting up a nonprofit organization?
So, I mean, this is obviously something I've never done before, so I kind of needed some advice. And actually, the first thing I did was I went to my mom and told her about an idea that I had. She's volunteered at the food bank for quite a long time and run some pretty successful programs, so she was kind of a good person to talk to. We kind of brainstormed, what equipment would be best for collecting, what getting the word out looked like. And then from there, I kind of started the GoFundMe and the social media pages, and it was just kind of waiting to see what the response would be. And I've been really overwhelmed, the response from the community, from CDDHS, my friends and family. It's really been amazing.
Now, for those that haven't kept up on what you're doing, how do they get involved? How do they donate? What can they do to help out?
So right now, I kind of have two options. The first is the GoFundMe, which I've been collecting donations from, kind of, like a COVID friendly option for people who don't want to be going out and getting stuff and dropping it off or me picking it up. And then the other option has been people buying sports equipment themselves and either dropping it off or I pick it up for them. And I know you guys are collecting at school, which is also great. So that's another option. So that's kind of the three ways right now.
You mentioned the GoFundMe page. Do you know off the top of your head how much you've raised so far?
I think it is at $1,100.
Because I know your original goal was set at 1,000, so that's good. Kind of where's the next tier that you're looking to get to?
I mean, yeah, 1,000 was my goal. Anything, from there is really a bonus. I'm keeping it open until the end of April. I mean, probably by then, maybe an extra 300, maybe looking at $1,500 is my final goal.
Perfect. Now, is this, you just said you're closing it in April, but is this something that you could see maybe stretching on into the winter months that you keep going past just the summer?
Yeah, so for right now, kind of my plan is in May, getting all the equipment together. I've already got some together, and then distributing it in June. And then that'll be kind of it for this year, because I don't know where I'll be in the fall. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be at school. But definitely maybe next year, the next summer, doing it again, definitely a possibility.
What would you say was the most shocking information you found while studying the lack of structured education in this school year?
Yeah, so the statistics that I was looking at when I was doing my paper, it was from a nationwide survey done by the Aspen Institute in the States. And probably one of the craziest statistics that was included is that there's been a 50% drop in youth sport participation, which is kind of a lot. Half the kids that were playing sports before COVID aren't anymore. And also kids living in households with an income over $100,000 are spending 2 more hours a week playing sports and getting out and being physically active than kids in households that are making less than $50,000, which has kind of shown that there is definitely a gap developing between lower income kids and not having the abilities to have the equipment to get out and be playing sports at home. And it's definitely shown. And the numbers have also shown that the numbers in individual sports have really risen. Pickup games and the sales of sports equipment that kids can use by themselves at home have also skyrocketed. And so that's kind of also the goal of Project Play for All, to be providing kids with equipment that they can be using by themselves at home, as that's one of the only options right now.
So do you have a certain way you're going to get all this sports equipment out to kids in need?
So right now, what I'm planning on doing is through the food bank in town, there's going to be, when they come during the month, there's going to be an application form type of thing where they write down their priority, like number 2, 1, and 2 choices of what sports equipment they'd like. And that's kind of how I'm going to get the information and then try and collect the right equipment so that each of the kids can have either their first or second choice. And then there's going to be a pickup day in June where they're going to come and pick them up.
Now, to backtrack a little bit, you said that there's 50% of kids that have dropped out of sports. Now, something that's always talked about now, and it's extremely important, is mental health. Do you think that kind of once we get out of COVID here or out of the major lockdowns that we're going to see a huge rise in mental health issues? Because there's no secret that sports and mental health coincide.
For sure. I think another thing that I remember, I think it was 30% of kids who were playing sports before the pandemic said they're never going to go back to sports again. And that's also kind of a big deal. And, there's definitely proven effects. I know even personally, I found them like I need to get out and exercise and playing sports. And I think that there definitely could be a mental health crisis for kids that aren't, getting out and getting active because of the pandemic. And we could definitely see that in the future.
Well, we love hearing about this, and I have no other questions for you. Do you have anything, Aiden, that you'd like to say before we end off here?
No, just good luck with Project Play for All, and I hope everything keeps skyrocketing like it seems to be. So
thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Perfect. Thank you for coming on.
Well, that's the end of today's podcast. Thanks for listening. Thank you to Laura for taking the time to do this again, and good luck to you, and we'll see you next week.
Perfect. Thanks for coming on, Laura.